Okay, today I want to demonstrate how to set up a Linux-based email system using two server applications for Linux, one called Postfix and one called Dovecot. Let me go ahead and pull up a diagram to show you what we're going to be doing here. In this diagram I have a simple mail system set up using a mail user agent, which in this case we're going to use Windows XP. We're going to be using Outlook Express in Windows XP, and I've got Windows XP running as a VM here, as well as CentOS 6 Linux. We could use Thunderbird or another mail client, even like iScribe or something like that, which is a free open source in Windows, but I'm choosing to use Outlook Express in this case. Those are considered mail user agents. They're email clients, and they are going to be communicating in the case of Outlook Express on the Windows XP machine. It's going to be communicating with the mail transport agent, which is Postfix, using Simple Mail Transfer Protocol 425, which is non-encrypted. Anybody can sniff packets in that case. So you've got to be careful. In a closed system is okay, but if you're communicating outside, you want to make sure that you run some kind of SSH, a secure shell, or some encrypted tunnel, so that someone couldn't sniff your packets and see your email. Anyway, Postfix is the mail transport agent. It is equivalent to like Exchange server in the Windows world. And so in this case we've got a loop, and we've got one MTA, one MUA. We're going to be communicating with another server out here in Linux that we're going to be installing called Dovecot, and that is a mail retrieval agent, mail delivery agent. And when the client communicates with Postfix using SMTP port 25, then that email is going to go to that we're sending to ourselves or to another user account on the domain that we're choosing. It's going to be communicating through Post Office Protocol version 3, port 110, back to the client, set up in an account we're going to be setting up in Outlook Express. Alright, so that's a simple diagram to show you what's going on there. We're not going to be introducing DNS here, although if we did, it would be communicating port 53 with the first MTA out to a remote MTA out in the world somewhere, and getting an IP address for that through that DNS, but we're not going to be doing that today. Alright, so let me go ahead and minimize that and come back, and what I want to be doing now is the first thing I want to be doing here is we've got CentOS Linux running, and so it's running something called SE Linux by default, which is a security enhanced Linux, and we want to make sure that it doesn't get in the way of what we're doing. So I'm going to do a get enforce command, take a look at SE Linux and see if it's enforcing, and it is indeed enforcing here, so we need to make it permissive or disabled so it doesn't get in the way. So I'm going to run a set enforce 0 command, and then do another get enforce to show you that it is now running in a permissive mode, so it won't get in the way. Next thing I want to do is I want to look at the firewall in Linux, and that's the Iptables. And let me run the listing of the Iptables. You can see we have a pretty good firewall going. So I want to flush the tables here. You wouldn't do this in the real world, but I'm going to go ahead and flush it for purposes of this demo so that it doesn't get in the way of anything that we're doing. So I'm going to run an Iptables F switch here to flush the tables, and then rerun the tables to take a look and see if they are indeed flushed. And it does look like we have a clean Iptables here now. So let me clear the screen here. And let me go ahead and now, since we have the Iptables flushed, let me do a service Iptables save command to save the configuration on those tables. So if we do need to reboot the system, it's not going to come back up and give us a full Iptables, which it would normally. Alright, so now the next thing I need to do is see if we have Postfix and Dovecot already installed in CentOS. Sometimes distributions of Linux will come pre-installed with Postfix or SendMail in the previous editions. But SendMail now has pretty much been superseded by Postfix. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do an RPM command, and I'm going to query all and grep for Postfix to see if it is installed on this system. Oh, I didn't grep. RPM minus QA, query for all, and let's grep for Postfix. Okay. Looks like Postfix is installed, and so I'm going to run the same command to see if Dovecot is installed. And let's grep for Dovecot. Okay, and if it doesn't return anything, which it doesn't, means that Dovecot is not installed. So we're going to need to install it. So let me go ahead and run a yellow dog update manager yum command and install Dovecot. Alright, so it's yum's going to go out to the repositories for CentOS, and it's going to find Dovecot and pull it down for us. Looks like it's a 3.8 megabyte file, and all the dependencies here have been resolved. So I'm going to say yes here and let it install. It's also installing OpenSSL, it looks like, for us, and it's asking for a key, to generate a key, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes to that. And so it's installing now, and it's updating the OpenSSL, and should be installing Dovecot. Okay, and should be completed here shortly. Okay, it has been completed now, so let me do a clear screen here. And let's go out and make sure that Dovecot and Postfix are running. So I'm going to run a service command for service postfix status to see what the status is of that server. It is running for us. I want to do a check config postfix and on to make sure that it is running for the run level. So when that CentOS normally comes up in if it reboots. So if this reboots right now, then that means Postfix will come up running instead of turned off or disabled. So right now, so let me go back and see if Dovecot is running. Let's run that status command. It's stopped. I'm going to go ahead and start it. So I'm starting Dovecot. And now let me do a check config on Dovecot as well, so that it will also survive a reboot. Okay, so both of those are up and running now. And so now the next thing I need to do is I need to make sure that we have, I'm going to run a netstat command and make sure that it's communicating on the proper, let's see, TALPN, proper protocols. And let me grep for Postfix. And so netstat. And let's look at port 25. That should be the port that I'm going to run the command properly. LPN, and let's grep for 25. Okay, so port 25 is open, and it's TCP protocol. It's listening here. It's called master. Postfix is called master rather than postfix when it's identified through netstat. Alright, so now let me go ahead and do a netstat command, and let me grep for port 110, and it looks like that Dovecot is listening on port 110 here as well. Alright, so let me minimize that for a moment. Okay, so we need to configure now Postfix and Dovecot for purposes of our email system. The first thing I need to do is when Postfix was installed, it installed it under the Etsy directory. So let me change directory to Etsy Postfix, and let's take a look at the listings of that directory, and you can see that there is a file here called main.cf. Alright, and we need to make a copy of that so if anything happens to that file we can recover. So let me do a copy of main.cf, and let's call it main.cf.org. And so now let me run a listing to make sure that we have a copy, and we do have a good backup of it. So let's now do a vim on main.cf, get into the file. Alright, so now that I'm in the file, one of the things I want to do is look for a stanza here within this file called iNet interfaces. Should be iNet interfaces set to all so that Postfix will communicate on all interfaces. And so now what I need to do, let me search for iNet, and I found it. And so let me get rid of the highlighting here, and now let me come down here to the iNet all. Let me come across, and I'm going to do a yank and a put here. So yank one line and put, and I want to comment out this line so that I have iNet interfaces equals all. It's a good practice to leave the original file alone. Yank and put the lines you want to modify, and then uncomment those. Alright, so down here we want to do the same. So let me do a yank and put here on that file, and then I want to comment out both of these. Give me a second. Okay, get rid of the highlighting, and let me come down again, and let me do a comment here, and come down and comment out this line as well. Okay, we want to make sure it's not on localhost. We want to make sure it's on all. Alright, and now next thing that I need to do is I need to search for a line called my destination. Okay, and I found one instance of it, and there it is. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so now let me get rid of the highlighting here. And now what I want to do is I want to come down and I want to set this up for the domain that I'm going to be using for mail. Right now it's my destination, and we've got this information here. I want to add my domain at the end. Before I do that though, I want to do a yank and a put here, and then I want to come back up and I want to pound out the first line, and then I want to come down here and I'm going to go to the end of this line, and I want to add the domain for mail that I'm going to be using. I'm going to call it landodan.com. Okay, landodan.com. So my email address will be something at landodan.com here. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to come back and I want to look for a stanza that's called my hostname. And let me search for that. Okay, and it found the first instances of it. And let me just keep looking for other instances. And there, that's what I'm looking for. No, that's not what I'm looking for yet. Okay, and I found it here, and so let me get rid of the get rid of the highlighting here, and let me do come down and come down to the my hostname line. And let me do a yank and put here on this line, come back up, and let me uncomment this line. And so the domain information we want to put in here is my email domain that I'm using. So let me get rid of that information and put Dan, landodan.com. Alright, so that's the domain we're using. And now the last thing I want to do is, now that I've done that, I want to go to the home mailbox and use maildir as the home mailbox name. So let me get out of this and do a home underscore mailbox and see if I can search for that. There we go. And so let me get rid of the highlighting here, and then I want to come up and come down here to the home mailbox, and what I want to do is the home mailbox to be maildir / so I'm going to put a yank and put here, and then come back and take out the commenting here, so we have home mailbox equals maildir. Okay, so now that we've done that, I want to write and quit this file. And now let's get into Dovecot and get to the configuration that we need to do there. So I'm going to change directories now to etc Dovecot. And now that we're in Dovecot, let me do a listing there on Dovecot to look at the directories. And we have dovecot.conf, and we have a config.conf.d directory. First thing we want to do is get into that dovecot.conf file. So we want to back that up first before we do anything with it. And so let me go ahead and do a copy dovecot.conf and copy that out to dovecot.conf.org. Alright, so now we've got a good backup of the file. I want to do a vim on dovecot.conf, and when we get into that file, we're looking for the protocols here that it's going to be using in our particular demonstration. We're going to use POP3 only. So we're going to eliminate IMAP and LMTP here. So I want to do a yank and put on this file, this line, and I want to come over and now I want to uncomment out that line, and let's eliminate the IMAP and come out here and eliminate the LMTP. So we have nothing but POP3 remaining. Then I want to come down and I want to come to this listen statement, and I want to yank and put this line, and then I want to come over and uncomment out this line as well, so that we have the listen statement set up as well, listening on all ports and all protocols. Alright, so now I need to right quit this file. Okay, now there are two files in the directory conf.d under Dovecot that we need to modify as well for CentOS 6 Linux. So let's change directories to conf.d, and then let's take a listing of those. And the two files that we want to modify here are the 10-auth.conf and the 10-mail.conf file. So let's go and make a copy of the 10auth.conf. So let me do a copy on 10auth.conf and copy that out to 10auth.conf.org. And then let's copy the 10mail.conf and copy that out to 10mail.conf.org as well. So we have copies, backups of both of those. And now let's do a vim on 10auth.conf. And we get into that file, and what I'm looking for here is I want to disable plain text authentication to no. And so let me come down here to this line, and let me do a yank and put on the line, and then I want to uncomment this line and do a disable plain text authentication. I want that to be no, not yes. All right, and then the next thing I want to do is I want to locate the authentication mechanisms. So let me do a UTH underscore mechanisms, and let's see if I can find that, and there it is. And so now let me get rid of the highlighting here, and let me do a yank and put on this line, and then let me come over, and what I want to do is, first of all, let's comment out this line and then come down, and I want this to be plain login. Okay, and now that we're finished with that file, I want to escape, do a right quit on the file, write the file, and now I want to get into the second file, which is the 10mail.conf. And let's get into that file. I need to come down to the location, mail location area. So let me do a mail underscore location and find that, and here it is at the bottom. And so now let me get rid of the highlighting, and now let me come down to this line, and I want to actually uncomment this line so that the mail directory is the ~/maildir. But let's do a yank put here on this one to preserve that, and then let me come over and uncomment that line and leave that the way it is. And so those are the only two changes that we'll need to make there in that file. And so now let me go ahead and do a right quit on this file as well and save the contents. Alright, so now that we've done that, we've made all the changes to the configuration files for Postfix and Dovecot. What I want to do is I want to run a service command again on Postfix and see what the status is. And it's running, but I've made changes, so I'm going to do a service postfix restart and restart that server. Okay, it looks like it restarted okay. I'm going to do a service Dovecot restart and restart Dovecot. Okay, it looked like that restarted okay as well. Now the next thing we need to do is pretty much set up for us. And what we'll need to do next is we'll need to, let me go ahead and clear the terminal screen. We'll need to set up user accounts now for our mail at landodan.com. And so let me go ahead and set up two users. I'm going to set up a user add Daniel, and change the password for Daniel to password. Okay, and then I'm going to create another user called Donald. Give Donald a password, and let's give him a password as well. Make it simple. Okay, so now I've got two users. If I change directory to home, you can see I should have two users now set up, one called Daniel, one called Donald, in the system, and we do. The attributes here are the two directories. It's read, write, and execute for the user, but nothing for anybody else here. All right, so at this point now, I should be able to go out and configure the MUA, which is the client in Windows XP, and we should be able to send and receive mail. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and go out to my Windows XP machine and bring that up, and let's recall what the IP address here is on the server. So let me do an IF config for the two servers, rather. 192.168, looks like the IP address changed on us 192.168, 142.192. You need to make sure that if you do set up a legitimate Postfix and Dovecot, and you want to not have this IP address changed, it looks like DHCP changed the IP address for us. You'll need to make that static, and there's a way to do that. Right now it's 142.192, and again this should be, let me just run the IP config here in Windows XP, and it looks like it is 142.185. So 142.185 on the XP machine, 142.192 in CentOS Linux. Alright, so let's go back out to the Windows XP machine, and now let me go ahead and fire up Outlook Express. And I've got that Daniel and Donald Calloway account already set up, and I want to log on. Oops, let me do a no, and let me fire it back up again, and let me go to the Daniel account, and I need to put in a password, of course. Alright, so I've got Outlook Express set up, and it's not the default, and let me go to an edit, or tools rather, and accounts, and I've got the wrong IP address here, so let me click on properties, and the IP address changed. So let me do 192.168, 142.1, whoops, it's trying to pull for mail, 142.192 on that server address. And so for POP3 purposes, it's 192.168, 142.192, I believe it is, for incoming POP3, and then 192.168.142.192 for outgoing mail as well. Daniel's the account name, password is password. Let me apply that and click OK. And now we should be able to send email to Dan and get mail back from Dan. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a test message on the Daniel account. So I'm going to send an email. Let me do a create email here and send an email to Daniel at landodan.com. At landodan.com. I'm going to send a test message. And this is a test message. And see, go ahead and click send and send that out. So it's communicating outgoing SMTP to port 25. And now it went out to Dovecot, so the Dovecot mail retrieval delivery agent should be delivering it to us. If I click on the send receive, it should poll for mail, and it did. And so that communicated on port 110 for Post Office Protocol version 3. So if I double click here and bring up the mail, it delivered the mail to us, and it dropped it off the server because that's what POP3 does. It wipes it off the server, and we can check the logs. There are two logs that we could look at, one at var log messages and another one at var log mail log. We could look at the traffic here and see what's going on. It's going to tell us that we sent an email from the 185, the 142.185 IP address to the 142.192 address, and that it did pull it off the server and send it back to us. So I'm going to go ahead and reply here and send it back to Daniel and say I got it, thank you. Okay, and click that and send that out. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a send receive again. And we did get that regarding test message and got that back. And so we've demonstrated now that we have a simple email system set up with Postfix and Dovecot, and that we were able to send out email and retrieve email on a reply on this system across the network to a Windows XP machine using a mail user agent called Outlook Express. Very simple mail user agent that we set up an account on using the IP address of the servers for Postfix and Dovecot, which was 192.168.142.191.